So, as you probably know, the sequel to Amnesia: The Dark Descent came out. It's called Amnesia: Machine for Pigs, and I've been looking forward to this game's release since they first announced it over a year ago. It was supposed to come out last Halloween, but they pushed the date way back to at the beginning of September sometime of this year. So I've been really looking forward to that because Amnesia is one of my favorite games of all time, not just favorite horror games, but it's in my top 5 favorite games ever. So of course I got Machine for Pigs, and I've already played and beaten it. It took me about 8 hours, I believe, to completely play through. You could probably blow through it in like 6 hours if you were just trying to blow on through, but I really like to take my time. It was different from the first Amnesia. I'm just going to tell you my thoughts on it. I can't include any gameplay because I don't have any video recording software yet, but I did take a lot of screenshots. I bought the game on Steam, and when I bought it, it was $19.95, I believe. It was on sale because I got it within like the first week of it coming out, and so the price has probably gone up a little bit now, but I bought it on Steam. The controls were the same as the first Amnesia. You move using the WASD pad, and then you use a mouse to control your direction. And all of the buttons were the same as far as bringing out your lantern, and you could still like peer around the sides of things to look for monsters and that kind of thing. But there were some differences. While the lantern was still present, in the first Amnesia game you needed to collect tinder boxes to power the lantern, and you had to be very careful about how much you used your lantern and when, because there were only so many tinder boxes in the game and you would run out of power for the lantern. So it definitely added in that survival feeling. In A Machine for Pigs, you can use your lantern unlimited. It doesn't run out of power at all. There's no tinder boxes. It's like an electric powered lantern, and that kind of detracted from the survival element because there wasn't this feeling of like needing to preserve your resources. It was kind of just like you could literally keep the lantern on the entire game, which was pretty much what I did, and there would be no consequences. There also was not a lowering of insanity. I'm going to show you the loading screen. I'm just starting up the game. I really like this loading screen. But anyway, spooky music. And there wasn't an insanity meter, so if you were in the dark, all that happened basically was you couldn't see as well. There wasn't any you going insane or anything like that like there was in the first Amnesia. In this game, the monsters were different. In the first game, there were the grunts, and in this game, this might contain spoilers, by the way. There were like these pigmen that were like genetically engineered, half pig, half man science project things, and so the enemies were different. There wasn't as much hiding from the enemy. It was pretty easy to avoid them, to be honest. If you saw one coming, all you had to do was turn off your lantern and duck, and you could like move around them pretty well. It was like they didn't have any sort of like hearing or anything. It was just if you passed in front of their line of sight, they would come. So this wasn't so much of a survival horror game, I didn't feel. It was kind of like just a horror game. And I was killed a couple of times by the pigs, but as soon as you're killed, you respawn pretty much as close to where you originally were. There's like respawn points kind of, and it's just like within the same room that you were, but like in a different spot in the room. And so there wasn't really any consequence if you did get killed. This is the load screen. I named my profile Adeline. I'd say that the atmosphere in this game was probably spookier, or as spooky as the first Amnesia. There were things that you would find like pig corpses and like piles of dead rats and blood and like little spooky things like that. Like at the beginning of the game, in the house that you start out in, there's like cages surrounding the beds, which I thought was really spooky. And it takes a really long time in the game for you to encounter any sort of enemy. There's a couple times where you see like children, like ghost children running in front of you, and you see like a creature in the bed, and it's spooky, but there's no real like encounters with enemies. Now, the first Amnesia game did not scare me. I'm really not easily scared. I just like the atmosphere and like the random like corpses and blood and the spooky elements and the music and stuff. I love all of that of horror games, but as far as them actually scaring me, it's really rare. So neither the first Amnesia game nor this one actually scared me. But this game had some very spooky moments to it. And throughout the game you're playing this man, I can't remember his name right now, and you're looking for his two twin sons, and there are times when you'll see the children like run in front of you and stuff like that. That was spooky to me. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like, ah! It was just kind of like a spooky feeling, if that makes sense. The music definitely added to the like spooky element. It was really, really good music, I would say. Also, the story of Machine for Pigs was, it was very story based, let me put it that way. The little like puzzles that you'd have where you would have to like turn knobs and turn things on and things. In the first Amnesia game, you could do it incorrectly and it wouldn't work. Like you could turn things the wrong way, or you could turn them too far and then it wouldn't work. But in Machine for Pigs, if something needed to be turned on, it turned on, and that was it, you know? There wasn't any really error. It was kind of just like, it didn't play itself, because there were times when I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do next and stuff like that, but as soon as you found out what you were supposed to do, there wasn't really anything to do wrong. It gave less of a sense of playing the game. It was kind of just like experiencing a spooky atmosphere and kind of going through it, if that makes sense. But I still enjoyed the game. In that way, I can understand why people think that it should be a standalone game as opposed to an Amnesia game, because when you try to compare the two, Machine for Pigs was disappointing because I don't think it lived up to what everyone was expecting the second Amnesia game to be. And I think that if it was a standalone game that was not Amnesia, I wouldn't feel like I needed to compare the two. But because it was marketed as Amnesia, like, I felt as if I had to compare the two, obviously, because it was a sequel. And in the sense of it being an Amnesia sequel, it was disappointing to me. The game itself was shorter than The Dark Descent. It wasn't as stressful because there wasn't that survival factor of trying to survive like there was in The Dark Descent. Not once did I have to like hide inside of like a wardrobe or something like I did in The Dark Descent. The story was very spooky, and they spent a lot of time on the story, that's apparent, developing it, and it was very heavily story based. But at the same time, I felt like at the end there were some questions that weren't answered by the game, I mean, and I'm not sure if playing it through a second time would help that. Like if it's one of those games where you play it once and you're kind of left confused, and then you play it a second time and everything like kind of falls together. I'll probably play it a second time. But towards the end of the game, I was confused about several things. I was confused about what the machine was made to do. I wasn't sure if it was made to manufacture these pigmen, or if it was made, I'm not sure if I just kind of like, if it went over my head or if it wasn't clear, but I wasn't quite sure what the machine did. And it did have a nice like twist. The twist was kind of predictable. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was interesting and spooky, and I felt like it left a lot of things for you to put together, which I kind of like, but at the same time it makes me wonder like if I put things together correctly or not. Like some of the things that I assumed it was implying and stuff like that, I'm not sure if I was correct in that. I also didn't like that there weren't as many drawers and things to open. In the house when you start out, there's certain drawers that you can open, and sometimes there's things in them that are something you can do, and sometimes they're just like open it up and there's nothing really, except for like a bottle of booze or something. There were a lot of bottles of booze around in this game, by the way. But a lot of the drawers were locked with like this Victorian looking lock, and I thought that that would be developed in the story somehow, like why is everything locked up, but I think that the reason why it was there was just so that they wouldn't have to program in all these different drawers opening, and that was kind of disappointing to me because I really like exploring games like that, and I like that you can open drawers and look around and stuff. I really like doing that in games, so that was kind of disappointing. And also at the beginning when you wake up and everything and you're in the bed and the bed has like a jail-like cage around it, they never explained that either. I'm not sure if it was like because the pigmen were in town. The pigmen are in town. But if it was because of that and that it was like to keep the pigmen out, or I felt like that didn't really answer it, and that was something that I was really excited by in the beginning. Like, why are all the beds caged up, you know? And then it never really told me, and I wish that it had. So it did leave me with questions. Also, at the end of the first Amnesia, there were alternate endings, and they were all pretty similar, but it depended on what you did at the very end, how the ending would be exactly. And in this game, it appears that there was only one ending, and I do like that multiple ending type feeling. So that was kind of disappointing also. I thought it would have been interesting to like get different endings and then have people like talk about what endings they got and that kind of thing. But there was just one ending, and I did enjoy the story though. Despite the fact that there were a few questions that were left unanswered, I did enjoy the story, and also the loading screens were really cool. They had like the heart that I showed you a minute ago. They were all like old style drawings, if you know what I mean. Like in the 1800s and stuff, the old dictionary drawings, you know, where there's like crosshatch shading and stuff like that. They were all like that, and I thought that was really cool. And it's also very mechanical as opposed to the first Amnesia, if that makes sense, because you are going through the machine this whole time throughout the game. And I'm gonna actually go into this really quick. It reminded me of steampunk in the sense that there were like gears everywhere and steam and things like that. So I enjoyed that. Like even on the loading screen, I'll show you really quick. See how there's like little gears around here even? Sorry. And so it had that kind of element to it also. Okay, it's loading. I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit. Overall, I did like the game. I was a little bit disappointed, especially because it was such a long wait for the game to come out. Oh, actually, this is from the beginning. I guess it is starting me over. So I'll just show you the very beginning, I guess. And I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for the fact that this isn't actually recorded on the screen and it's just me holding up a camera. That's pretty janky, but like I said, I don't have any software. There's the machine booting up. See, from the beginning, you're searching for your twin sons, and that part of the is answered. What happened to the boys? And here the character is waking up inside of that cage in his bed that I told you about. And that I felt was never answered, why there are cages around the beds. Which I thought that would have been really cool if they'd elaborated on that a little bit more. Amnesia, a machine for pigs. See, there's a booze bottle right at the beginning. There are booze bottles all over the place. I noticed that a lot in this game. Okay, I don't have a mouse, so I can't really turn. I'll try to turn with my thumb. Let's see. Here's the bed that I was telling you about. And I'll also show you how most of the drawers and things are locked. See, here's like a chest of, or like a wardrobe, whatever you want to call it. But you see how it's locked up, so you can't open the drawers at all. That was kind of disappointing to me. Another thing that was interesting is that there's electricity in this game all over, so there's like electric lights. See, you can turn that on. And here's the first note that you find. and the character doesn't read them out loud, you just have to read them yourself. So I'm going to read this really quick. In my dreams, I see a man, dressed in jaguar skins and feathered like a blooded saint. What came from the heart lubricated us, it crushed evil under its tread and liberated us all. The photied heat of the jungle mirrored somewhere behind my forehead. My temple pounds, the blood boils in my skull. It feels as if there is something alive there, a rat, a damned rat gnawing through my brains, eating its way out into the world. Even the laudanum will not quell its endless hunger. I hear my children playing in the attic, but it fills me with terror, not love. What desperate thoughts are these? And it says that it's on June 24th, 1899, so this whole game takes place in 1899, and at the very end of the game, it like rings in the new year for 1900, and yeah, that was just a little peek, like I said. Overall, where Amnesia was one of my favorite games of all time, I would say that this one is really good, and it's still one of my favorites, but while Amnesia was, like The Dark Descent was in my top 5 games ever, this one would probably be in the top 10, 15. I did not like it as much as The Dark Descent, but I did still enjoy it, and that's my thoughts on Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs. Thank you for watching, and I apologize again for not having any actual gameplay. I'll include some screenshots that I took. Since I bought the game on Steam, it comes with the ability to take screenshots, so I got quite a few screenshots throughout, and I'll put those in at the end. Warning that they might have spoilers in them, but I'll put a spoiler warning on the video also. But thank you for watching. Tell me what you thought of Amnesia in the comments if you played it. Tell me if you really liked A Machine for Pigs, what you thought about it, if you thought it was comparable to the first Amnesia. I'm interested to hear what other people thought as well. So, bye!